All right, just another good example of where the system has got flipped. Now, this video I had favorited a while back. I meant to stitch it, but again, I get busy, so some of these are falling behind. I'm trying to catch up. Guys. There was that real estate mogul with the weird accent going on, talking about how the working class need to suffer so that they can get richer. In a nutshell, that's what he said anyway. Yeah, so I'm going to reiterate this again. I'm going to keep saying it until people start seeing it, but what should have happened during COVID is everybody that was being subjected to being an essential worker should have left. And I said a while back in a video, if you think the 5 people across the company that were like, I'd do it, I don't believe in that vaccine, could have ran the company, then let them go ahead and try and see what they can do. And again, when the next pandemic comes around, all of us collectively, if you fear for your health, leave. Because there are far more of us that are actually doing the job and suffered in silence than there are of those who are loudly being ignorant about the situation. So that needs to stop. And if you have an employer, and I had a guy come to my comments on a different video about how employees need to be obedient and how you would have fired my ass already. Employers like that, if you see that and that's their attitude and they're willing to be loud about it, quit. Leave. You're better than that. Go someplace else. Because they're only going to keep undermining you. And I understand it is difficult. It is difficult to be told that and be like, well, I don't know what else I'll do. Then make other plans. Start preparing to leave. Don't tell your employer either. And that's got to stop too, guys. No more 2 weeks notice. If you got a really crappy employer that is just bad to you, don't give them notice. They're not going to give you a good reference anyway. Like, I guarantee you got an employer that's just crap. No matter how you leave, they're going to treat you like dirt and they're going to talk about you like dirt. And that's another thing people aren't talking about here is the number of employers that badmouth employees. And there are plenty of people telling me, oh, they can't do that. I've had one job so far that has done that badmouthed me to the point I couldn't get work. And I'm curious about the last employer, if they're doing that. I have to figure out how to figure that out. Because in 2.5 years, it can't just be that employers are falsely trying to fill positions, that they're just doing ghost applications and stuff like that. There's something else in the mix. And unfortunately, the employer I worked for was big enough in the area that I'm at that they have sway, could cause problems. But that's the thing. Nobody talks about that part, right? And you have to do that extra legwork to catch them in the act, right? But that's what we're not doing. We're not doing our due diligence on that. We're not following through. So if you work for a crappy employer, you don't like them, really reason it out and make sure you're not just maybe at a low spot. But if your employer is doing crappy things, find a way to leave. Go someplace else. And I know some people are like, well, I can't. It's a small town. This is the best employer in town. Maybe it's time to get out of the small town. Maybe it's time to go someplace else. Maybe you are a fish that has outgrown that tiny little tank. Because I have known too many good people who really were good but were afraid of moving anywhere. We got to do something, guys. And I'm looking for work, but I have to be picky. I can't work for substandard wages. I have to make enough to support my life. And I don't have an extravagant lifestyle. I have a house payment which is cheaper than any rent in the town I live in. My house payment is cheaper, and I've discussed this in other videos. My house payment is cheaper than rent in about 90% of the United States. And that other 10%, I don't want to live there. So don't tell me I'm living out of my means when my rent is less than half of what other people are having to try to make for a house. And I have a family, so it's not like I can just move into a shack. But yeah, get out of the situation. And remember, your employer needs you. Their business won't run. Business owners don't run their businesses anymore. They don't. Very few do. I don't care what industry it is. I've worked many places. I've worked tech support where these guys claim to run the company. They don't know anything about technology. I worked at one technology company. The owner was so bad at technology because he was educated in the 80s and early 90s that his information was so relevant to the modern day. But as he saw it, he only needed to know a little bit so he could seem relevant, and he could just hire smarter people to work for him. That's not a good business owner. There's more to being a business owner than just being the smartest guy in the room or being able to hire smart people to do the work for you. That's not being a business owner. Anybody can do that. So start asking better for yourselves and start showing these employers that they really don't have that much power.